As we continue on with this journey of You Are My Brother, I want to welcome you guys back to another episode. You are my brother, you are my sister, you are my family. And the reason why I do this is to really talk about topics that really affect our community in ways that we can uplift and empower one another. So if you're now just hearing about the channel and it's new, just understand that this is a community based around promoting love, equality, reform, but also education, and also talking about the importance of ownership that affects the Black and brown community and how we can further support our own businesses, our own people. So what I want to talk to you guys today on this episode about is the importance of shopping within your own community, or banking within your own community more specifically. And I want to tell you why I came to this topic. Today I was reading about a story that came out of Connecticut. Seemed to happen recently, but it could have happened a while ago. So I wanted to bring it to you guys. But basically, it's a story in Connecticut. This lady, she was banking with TD Bank. I believe she worked for a school system. And she basically, deposited a check in her account. And then, she gets up to the teller, and then they tell her that they don't feel comfortable releasing the amount of money directly to her. And I'm pretty sure most of you guys have, or most of you sisters have dealt with this in some form or another. I can't really say that I've dealt with it directly, but it explained a lot of what I may be feeling. For instance, if you go to the bank teller and you're kind of wondering, hey, I'm only trying to take out $1,000 on my account, and it seems like it's a simple transaction, but it turns into a 20-30 minute affair. I could definitely say I've been a part of that, but I never knew why. And when I came across this story out of Connecticut with this young lady, it kind of put light on a few things. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, is the importance of really banking within your own community. For instance, we put a lot of money into some of the big banks. When you think about big banks like, Bank of America, Chase, or Wells Fargo, or TD Bank, the list goes on and on and on. And I really wanted to share this young lady's experience. So she goes to the bank and she's trying to get money out of her account. The teller tells her, hey, I don't feel comfortable getting this money, giving you this money. And, they verified that the actual check had cleared the day prior. She decided she wanted to take the money out of her account, as she has the right to do. And they're giving her all types of fussing and hassling. And, the people, shout out to our brothers and sisters up there in Connecticut that really came to the aid of her and said, hey, we need to look at TD Bank and, kind of think about where we really generate our money and where we give our money to, essentially. So they basically came together and they said, you know what, we need to boycott this place. Now, of course, that was at a local branch, and TD Bank, just to be fair to them, say that they don't believe in discrimination and things of this. And we've all heard this before, and the rhetoric goes on and on and on. But I found it so appalling that they verified the check. She had the funds in her account, and here she is at the teller, and the teller tells her, hey, I don't feel comfortable giving you the money. So it really took me, back and made me think about, why are we supporting these banks? And I'm not saying, if you're listening to this channel and you've been listening to, some of the episodes that we've done previously here in this community, one thing that you'll know is that I'm not stating that you have to make radical changes, because sometimes you don't have to think on such a macro level, but you can think on a micro level. And really, when you look at it on a micro level, here you are, you go to work every single day, try to make the best that you possibly can do, whether you're working, whether you're not, but you're just trying to really hold your head above water to take care of your family, right? So you work, you decide to put your money in the bank. Then you get to the bank, and the bank is looking at you funny, as if they don't want to give you money that's rightfully yours, right? So it made me start thinking about, why are we sitting up here putting our money in these banks, giving them all of this capital that we sit up here and work for, just to be treated unfairly or, looked at as lesser than. So I just want to say that we really need to take a hard look at who we spend our money with and why we decided to back these banks. Because at the end of the day, these banks are nothing really without, you putting money in these banks. So my point here is that there are plenty of, and I really want to speak directly to my black brothers and sisters out there, is that if you go back and you look at, let's say, the 1940s, the 1930s, the 1950s, there were a large number of black banks, and that number is steadily decreasing. And I believe that the reason why that number is decreasing is because we have now been so conditioned to putting our money in these big banks such as Bank of America, Chase, yada, 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 all these other banks out here, making them, a large amount of money that they can use our money for to do transactions, due to stocks, bonds, whatever. But we really need to take a step back and say to ourselves, why can't we promote our own banks? So I really want to take a look at that here in this particular episode. So the first thing I would say is that, look, it's not your fault that you may not have access to black banks or even knowing the history of black banks. You might not have one directly in front of you. But the power of the internet allows us to research things, and maybe you have the time, maybe you don't. So if I'm talking about this problem, of course, I'm going to give you some solutions here. So I just want you to take a look and say, okay, let's say, for instance, I primarily bank with, let's just use Bank of America as an example. Just start thinking about how you can support a black bank. And I'm going to speak to my Latino community. Don't worry, I got you there as well. Same rules apply. Why are we giving all of our money to these big banks? Now, you can keep your account at Chase. I currently have a Chase account, but recently, about a month ago, I decided to make a change, and just a small change. So I want to use it and think about it in the terms of, let's say, for instance, you have $1,000 in your account and you have $1,000 at Bank of America, right? Why not just take 100 of those dollars, something small, $100 of that money, and invest it into a black bank or a Latino American bank or a Hispanic bank, and just try to support them that way. You don't have to make radical changes, but like I mentioned, let's just kind of diversify how we see banks, so that way you could feel like you maybe have a equal playing field, or that these banks can turn around and support you. Because you have to think about it, at the end of the day, here we are as people, and we're putting our money into these big, financial institutions. But then you might decide, hey, you want to open up a business one day, or you want to buy a house. So now that this bank that you've been dealing with may tell you you need X amount of credit score, X amount of FICO score, X amount of dollars in your account, giving you all of these hurdles, and maybe they just don't understand your plight as much as, a member of your community or financial institution that understands your situation in your particular community and can understand a little bit of that because they are that. And I think that you would have a little bit of an advantage there. So I just kind of want you guys to start diversifying as far as when it comes to financial institutions and who you bank with. So on this channel, I never talk about a problem without providing some solutions. So I use the example of myself. For instance, I used to have Bank of America before I cut them off due to various reasons. And now I currently have a Chase account. But last month I decided, what I'm going to do is I'm going to support a black-owned bank. So I was able to find a few, and that was the problem. I defined the problem was that I can't sit up here and want to support future entrepreneurs or future business owners and give them a fair shot. So then they go to the bank and they're trying to open up, or they're trying to get a loan so that that way they can open up a bank. And then the bank turns them down because the bank just doesn't understand or doesn't want to do business with them, whatever have you. I feel like I'm contributing to that problem that we now speak of. So I want to provide solutions around that case. So like I mentioned, I have the Chase account for about maybe 4 years now. And just decided last month, I'm going to take a small portion of my money and start applying it to other banks. So that's the problem I'm defining. Now, I want to talk to you about, there are a few black banks out there. Now, some of them may not be in your area, but they are easily available to find online. So the first bank that I want to talk to you guys about that I found that I wanted to support and that I actually started supporting was a bank called One United Bank. And this is just a small institution, or when you read their website and you look at their mission statement, they say that they're the largest black-owned and FDIC insured bank. So I said to myself, you know what? This is something I can support because if your life matters, your community matters, your money has to matter as well. So they're called One United Bank. You can easily look them up. Their website is oneunited.com. Do your own due diligence. I would always urge anybody here to do their own due diligence because, as we know, there's a such thing as black owned and black targeted. So we have to be very mindful of that when we're researching. So please do your own due diligence. I've done some of the due diligence for you, but it's a part of the process of educating yourself on this process. It doesn't take a long amount of time. I simply just did a Google search and they popped up. So they're One United Bank. I'm going to give you another one here. I found a few other ones, and the other one I found was called Broadway Federal Bank. And Broadway Federal Bank states that they are proud minority-owned business, minority-owned financial institution. So that they've been serving the community since 1947. So please do your own due diligence there. There's several other banks in there as well, but I'm just giving you a few. Now, their website is BroadwayFederalBank.com, so please look them up. And I know, a lot of brothers and sisters who may listen to this channel may be out west. Some of you may be overseas, but if you're here in the States, I found a few, and there's a few that actually operate in the South. So I found one that was in Alabama, and I researched them. They're called Commonwealth National Bank. I'm not too sure about them, but when I looked them up and I went on their About Us page, you can clearly see that they've been open since 1976, and they fully serve the community here. They are a commercial bank. They're on their website. They're saying that they are one of the only 15 Black-owned and operated banks remaining in the country, and one of only 5 Black-owned banks regulated by the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. So when you look at that and you just hear that statement, we are one of only 15 owned Black banks. Do your research. It's important really to do your research because we had so many banks, but as we continue to funnel our money into these big financial institutions, we have to think about, are they really representing us? And this is one of them. They're located in Alabama. I'm not too sure. I want to say that they're actually in Mobile, Alabama, but you don't have to live in Mobile to open up an account with them. And like I mentioned before, you do not have to, take all of your money and make radical moves. But if you start with something simple, like $1,000, you can keep, 1,000, you can keep 900 of those dollars and to Bank of America or whatever bank you bank with. But why not give them $100 just to start trying to diversify yourself within these financial institutions? As I mentioned previously, we're not always in this by ourselves. So, on this channel, we promote brown and Black love here. So of course we have to cover, our Latino brothers and sisters because they represent us as well and we represent them. So the point that I'm trying to drive home here is I did a simple Google search. I found a few of them actually. A lot of them seem to be based out of Texas and Florida, which I found to be kind of shocking and sad. Now I know we have huge populations of Latino American people who live in, Florida and Texas, but I'm from the great state of New York, and we have tons of Latino, Hispanic, brothers and sisters. So I'm not saying that we don't have them in New York, but I noticed that there was a large concentration of them. But it's important to do your research when you're looking at some of these Hispanic owned banks, because as I'm looking through them, some of them seem all right. Some of the names I heard before, and I'm gonna give you just one here simply. It says BAC Florida Bank, and I looked at them a little bit. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I didn't see anything that really read that they were owned and operated by Latino American people or Hispanic people. But I looked at their board of directors page. I looked at a lot of the pages there. They seem to be, representing the Latin community, but I would always caution you, please do your own due diligence. And if you're listening to this content out there, and I definitely appreciate you guys' support, for listening and sharing the information. But also, please do your due diligence. If you know other black banks or other Hispanic American banks, please feel free in the comments to, let us know. So that way, because we're a community, we have to share the information. So, it's important that we share together and we learn together. So I just wanted to bring you this quick video about some banks that I find and why you should think about really diversifying your play in some of these financial institutions to make sure that you're well represented, that they understand your particular community's needs, and they put your particular community's needs first, because there's no point in us sitting up here making these big financial institutions rich and they don't have your best interests at heart. Because when I heard the story about the young lady in Connecticut, I said to myself, it's time that we stop this. Just feel free to diversify. So I wanted to bring you guys this quick video just to show you that there are other opportunities out there, and please feel free to share. Thank you. You're listening to another episode. You Are My Brother.